I never imagined that my biggest turning point would come from a plain white envelope sealed with nothing but a faded sticker. But there I was, standing in the opulent marble hallway of the Harrington mansion, my hands trembling as the world I thought I knew cracked wide open. If you're watching this, stick around until the end because the final revelation might just remind you that your own story isn't over yet. And if this tale moves you even a little, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support keeps stories like this alive. My name is Elena Morales, and for 6 long months, I was just the nanny. The Harringtons lived in a sprawling estate just outside the city, the kind of place where crystal chandeliers cost more than my yearly rent and silence felt expensive. Mr. Harrington, a sharp-suited venture capitalist, was rarely home. Mrs. Victoria Harrington was beautiful in that polished, untouchable way, always in silk blouses and perfect lipstick, even on her worst days. Their 5-year-old daughter, Sophie, was the light in that cold house. Big brown eyes, wild curls that refused to stay in ribbons, and a laugh that could melt the frostiest heart. I had answered the ad out of desperation. After losing my mother to cancer the year before and watching my teaching job disappear during budget cuts, I needed steady work. The agency warned me the family was particular, but the pay was triple what I could earn anywhere else. On my first day, Mrs. Harrington looked me up and down like I was a piece of furniture that might not match the decor. "Sophie can be sensitive," she said coolly. "Try not to get too attached. We've had turnover." I nodded politely, but the moment Sophie slipped her tiny hand into mine and whispered, "Will you stay?" I was already gone. Life settled into a rhythm that was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Mornings meant chasing Sophie through the rose garden while she pretended to be a fairy queen. Afternoons were spent reading stories on the window seat, her head tucked under my chin as she asked 1,000 questions about why the sky was blue and whether mermaids got cold. Evenings, when her parents were at galas or locked in their study, I would rock her to sleep and sing the lullabies my own mother once sang to me. The Harringtons barely noticed. To them, I was background noise, the woman in the plain gray cardigan who kept their daughter alive and well behaved. Mr. Harrington once handed me my paycheck without looking up from his phone. Mrs. Harrington corrected my posture once, saying, "Posture matters, Elena, even for staff." I smiled through the sting because Sophie's giggles made everything worth it. But cracks were forming. Victoria's health had been declining. At first it was small things, forgotten appointments, sudden fatigue, hands that trembled when she tried to sign documents. She hid it well, but I saw the pill bottles multiplying in the bathroom cabinet. One rainy evening, after Sophie had gone to bed, Victoria called me into her private sitting room. The fire crackled softly as she handed me the sealed envelope. "Keep this safe," she said, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. "Open it only if something happens to me. Promise me, Elena." Her eyes, usually distant, held something raw and desperate. I promised. Weeks blurred into months. Sophie began calling me Mama Elena when her real mother wasn't around. It broke my heart and healed it at the same time. I thought about my own dreams, the classroom I once loved, the little apartment I could barely afford, the future I had put on hold. But Sophie needed me, and in a strange way, I needed her too. The challenge came hardest on Sophie's 6th birthday. The Harringtons threw an extravagant party with ponies, a live band, and guests who barely spoke to the child. Victoria looked pale and frail in her designer dress. Later that night, after everyone left, she collapsed in the hallway. The ambulance lights painted the mansion walls red and blue. Mr. Harrington rode with her, barking orders into his phone. I stayed behind with Sophie, who cried herself to sleep in my arms, whispering, "Is Mommy going to leave like the others?" Victoria fought for 3 days. On the 4th, Mr. Harrington returned home alone, his face a mask of exhaustion and something colder, calculation. The funeral was a spectacle of black suits and expensive flowers. I stood at the back with Sophie's hand in mine, feeling invisible once again. 2 nights later, after Sophie finally fell into a restless sleep, I sat at the small desk in my quarters and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in Victoria's elegant handwriting, along with legal documents and a small flash drive. "Dear Elena, if you're reading this, I didn't make it. I'm sorry for the way I treated you. The truth is, I've known who you are for months. When we hired you, it was supposed to be temporary. But Sophie, she chose you. And I realized the universe had brought you here for a reason. Asterisk. Sophie isn't biologically mine. My husband and I used a surrogate, your sister, Maria. She passed away 2 years ago in that car accident, but not before she begged me to find you. Maria never told you she carried a child for us. She wanted to give you a better life by keeping you out of our complicated world. But I watched you with Sophie. You loved her the way only real family can. Asterisk. The documents inside grant you full legal guardianship. The flash drive has recordings of my conversations with lawyers and my final wishes. My husband will fight this, he always does. But the will is ironclad. I've left enough in a trust for both of you to live freely. Use it to chase the dreams you gave up. And please, tell Sophie about her real mother one day. Tell her she was loved beyond measure. Asterisk. Thank you for being the mother I couldn't be. Asterisk. Victoria. Tears streamed down my face as I read and reread the words. My sister Maria, the wild, brave one who left home young, had done this for me. All those years I thought she was drifting, she had been carrying a child so I could have a chance at stability. And now, this little girl with my family's eyes was mine to protect. The battle that followed was brutal. Mr. Harrington contested everything. He offered me money to disappear. He threatened legal action. There were sleepless nights where I held Sophie while she asked why Daddy was so angry. I felt small again, just the nanny, an outsider trying to claim a place in their world. But Victoria's letter and the ironclad documents gave me strength. I found a good lawyer, gathered every bit of courage my mother had ever poured into me, and fought. Sophie's testimony in the private mediation session was what finally broke through. In her small, clear voice she said, "Elena is my mama. She stays when everyone else leaves." Even Mr. Harrington couldn't argue with that kind of truth. 6 months later, we moved out of the mansion into a modest but sunny house near the beach. I used part of the trust to finish my teaching degree online while working part-time. Sophie started kindergarten and began calling me Mom in public, a word that still makes my heart swell. We visit Maria's grave together and leave flowers. We talk about the aunt she never met but who loved her enough to change our lives. Mr. Harrington sees Sophie on scheduled weekends. He's learning, slowly, what it means to show up. Some wounds take time. Looking back, I realize the hardest challenges weren't the cold shoulders or the legal battles. They were the quiet moments when I doubted whether someone like me, a girl from a crowded apartment with secondhand clothes and big dreams, deserved this kind of second chance. But love doesn't check bank accounts or resumes. It shows up in lullabies, in band-aids on scraped knees, in choosing to stay when it would be easier to walk away. If you're watching this and feeling unseen, whether you're a parent, a caregiver, a dreamer who's been told you're just something, know this, your role is never small. The love you pour out matters. The quiet sacrifices echo, and sometimes, the sealed envelopes of life hold the keys to everything you were meant to become. Sophie and I still have dance parties in the kitchen. She still asks about mermaids. And every night when I tuck her in, I whisper the same promise my mother once gave me, "You are loved beyond measure." Thank you for letting me share our story. If it touched you, like this video so others can find it too, and subscribe for more real-life tales of resilience and hope. Drop a comment telling me about a time you were underestimated. I read every single one. Your story might be the next miracle waiting to unfold. Until next time, keep believing that the best chapters are still ahead.